There we go. We were okay. Now we're good.
All right.
Hello, Craig. Attendees are now signing in. We're rolling up, and we're going to get started in a minute. While I do my best to manage the technology and talk to you, maybe you could tell people where you are and how you're managing your time in this challenging situation.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Where am I? I'm in lovely Montclair, New Jersey, operating out of the third floor of my house. And I have this lovely Zoom background, but I could show you if you want to see like what it really looks like.
I mean, sure, it's up to you. I'm not going to show you here because it's a disaster. But it's really, if you have anything exciting behind that screen.
Oh, come on, how could I not? Let's see. I'll show you what's going on because you asked like what's really happening. So I'll show you my non-virtual background. And then I can always shift back. So on the third floor of my house, I'm surrounded by products. I have products everywhere, like everywhere. Not just Hello products, all sorts of things. My custom Jim Beam.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, I've got all sorts of things.
How does one get a custom Jim Beam bottle? Is that
it's actually signed. It's signed by Fred Noe, who's the guy who makes this stuff.
Wow.
And I got asked to come talk to this company, Beam Suntory, and talk about innovation and design and culture and brand and stuff. And they gave me these wonderful parting gifts. And frankly, I don't really drink, so they're just sitting here. I have some Maker's Mark, special reserve with my name on it, all sorts of stuff. They give you good stuff.
People must think you're a big drinker.
I'm definitely not. I'm clearly a big eater, but not a big drinker. So yeah, I'm surrounded by Hello skateboards and a really crazy guitar or two, and lots of books. And when you're making things, it gets a little messy.
It does.
So you gotta make stuff, and you gotta have really cool pencils.
Do you have cool pencils?
Oh, come on. They have like little rubbery grips and they're shaped like a triangle. I mean, why would you have a normal pencil?
Why have a normal pencil when you can have an amazing pencil?
That's it.
Well, before we get into all that, welcome everybody to the New Jersey Tech Council's webinar series. This is part of our Elevate series where we interview interesting people and elevate the conversation. Today, talking to Craig Dubitsky, the founder of Hello Products. Really psyched to have you here. We're going to talk about a whole variety of things, and just to set the stage for people, Craig and I will talk a lot about his background and some lessons learned. I'll be monitoring the Q&A. So if you have questions, first of all, feel free to jump into the chat, say hello to your fellow participants. It's a good way to virtually network and get to know who's here. I have a little bit of a hard time monitoring that, but I will monitor the Q&A. So if you have questions, ask them as we go. I'll weave them into the conversation as best I possibly can. And we're sure to learn a lot from Craig. The whole session should go to about 12:45. I'll try to give you a heads up if we're going to go longer. Hopefully, Craig can hang out with us until about then. But I want to be
there. I'm here.
Great. And so with that, we will get started. I'm going to stop my screen share, and we'll dive into some of this conversation. 1 second so I can focus. Here we go. So, Craig, founder of Hello Products, but that's nowhere near your first entrepreneurial endeavor.
No.
Is it?
No.
Tell me about this hot tub.
You read my LinkedIn.
I read a lot of stuff. That one really stood out.
Yeah, so my freshman year of college, I did what any red-blooded collegiate freshman would do. I called up a place that had rental hot tubs, and they brought a hot tub to the little quad that was outside my window.
Yeah.
And I ran all the electric from my room. It was self-contained. And I had a hot tub party because, that's what you do in 1984. So yeah, I did that. I was a collegiate entrepreneur. I didn't charge any money to go in the hot tub or anything. People probably would have paid not to see me go into the hot tub, actually. But, you do what you got to do. Yeah.
I bet you made a lot of friends very quickly with the hot tub.
I did. It was a good icebreaker, if you will. And hold on, I'm going to make sure because I can tell like I'm binging in the background here. I think I have like mail running, and I'm going to quit that so we don't have to hear.
Hello, Mike from West Orange, and Daryl.
Oh, West Orange, right in the hood. Yes, I'm in Montclair.
Yeah.
And I was a collegiate entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur as a kid. I've always been an entrepreneur. So
tell me about that. I mean, what were some of your early entrepreneurial endeavors?
I literally was a little kid with a lemonade stand, but my lemonade stand had a car wash. So I would wash your car. I'd have other kids in the neighborhood come work as car washers or lemonade servers, because I had a captive audience, right? You were there to have your car washed, and I could sell you lemonade. So I was upselling and cross-selling as a kid, and employing other kids in the neighborhood. So I've always been like that. And then when I went to college, I had businesses in college. I had a food business open 7 nights a week, with space in the dorms, fresh food delivered every day at 5:30. We're open at 9:30 at night till 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I had a carpeting business. I would sit in front of the cafeterias at night for dinner for a week with a swatch board and ask people to choose their top 3 colors. And once I figured out what the top 3 colors were, I would buy bulk carpeting. And I got the school to give me the layouts for the different dorm rooms. And I would custom cut the carpeting for your dorm room and charge more if I dropped it off at your room, or less if you just came to a truck and picked it up. I had a student trucking business, taking students' goods back and forth to school. And I could bulk purchase airline tickets on a low-cost air carrier that doesn't exist now, People's Express. And kids could fly back and forth to school for like $19, $29. And I would have these trucks that would go back and forth and take their stuff home, charge more if we dropped it off at your house, less if we met you at a predetermined time at a like mall out lot. Parking lot, like way off to the side.
Yeah.
All I did in college was make money. I think I took some classes and stuff, but yeah.
What do you think was what's the foundation of your entrepreneurial drive? I mean, it's, even how old were you with the lemonade stand, car wash?
Oh my God. I was probably like 8 or 9 or something.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I'm an arbitrageur, basically. I only know a few French words. So I know entrepreneur, arbitrageur. I know pain au chocolat, clearly, croissant, but that's about it. So I always get motivated when I see discrepancies in things. Like there's always an opportunity, and it like irks me if it's not being addressed or approached properly or leveraged. It just always kind of drives me crazy. It's like a form of OCD, I guess.
So so are you saying that you recognize, like in college with the carpet business, people were struggling to get the right carpets? You figured I can make.
And I went to school in Rochester, New York, and the floors are fucking cold.
Yeah.
Right. So you're gonna get up in the morning, you're gonna put your tootsies down on this like cold linoleum floor. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
So and the other thing is, in college, my thinking was, even if you had a job in college, every dime you make, or if you're lucky and your parents give to you, is disposable income.
That's right.
Like it's all there. And especially at the beginning of the semester when you think you're flush, right? Because you probably show up with a little cash.
Yeah.
So of course you want a carpet for your room. Of course you want to eat pizza bagels at 2 a.m, after Domino's is closed. Like, of course you want that stuff. So it was just, it was a very rich territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a business you started that didn't go so well?
Oh my God, I've got lots of those. Let's see. That didn't go so well. Let's see. I had this idea to reinvent moving and relocation. It's still the right idea. Just, timing wasn't great. And there was an exit. We were acquired, but it wasn't what it could have been.
Yeah.
So that's one. Let's see, what else that didn't go great? I don't know. I think I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, they've all done generally okay.
What did your parents think about these entrepreneurial endeavors?
They thought I should be a doctor or a lawyer, so they were a little disappointed. But back in the day. Yeah. But my mother, I owe a lot to my parents. Like everyone, we all owe a lot to our parents. I hope.
My mom, I think, is watching now. I owe a lot to my parents as well.
Well, there you go. Give it up. Give it up to moms everywhere. Moms, man, that is the no joke.
We don't get a lot of love.
Dads are great, but moms. That's the hardest job in the world. So Yeah, my mom always encouraged me. Not that my dad didn't. My dad did too, but my mom in particular was more in touch with her creative side and always felt that there were creative solutions for just about anything. And she always encouraged me to try things. So I grew up in this household where it was definitely celebrated to try things. So for me in life, because I grew up in a household like that with very supportive parents, even though I disappointed them by not being a doctor or a lawyer, I have no fear of failure. I just have fear of not trying. And I kind of think, as corny as it may sound, if you don't try, you've already failed.
Yeah.
So I'd rather bet on me than somebody else. So I'm always happy to try things. And if it doesn't work out, you learn a lot. I mean, you just learn a lot. And then you won't make that. I always say I'll just make new mistakes. You know, I won't make any old mistakes. I won't repeat anything. And if I make a new mistake, I'm smarter now and I will kill it really fast.
Yeah.
So it won't be a really painful mistake. Because, you know, if you don't make mistakes, you're not trying, right? It's like you're going to make mistakes. And it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, regret is the biggest mistake. You're going to have a really hard time if you don't try things and you have regret.
Do you have any strong regrets right now?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Did you ever?
I feel very lucky.
Did you ever consider pursuing a career in music?
I love music. Like I'm surrounded. I have guitars. I have weird guitars. I have normal guitars. I'm reaching for one of my weirder ones, a Steinberger. It's funky, has no headstock. I didn't really consider it, but I love it. And I had a internship at Arista Records when I was little, and I've always loved music. Like music for me is, you know, it's expressive, it's poetry, it's magic, it's math, it's everything. I always have a guitar of some sort by my desk. Not because I can play very well, because I'm terrible. It's a great reminder for me of how, like, there's 12 notes in a musical scale, but no two songs are going to sound exactly the same. Even the same sheet music, you know, if you give somebody some sheet music, I have sheet music by my desk too. Yeah. No two people are going to play it the exact same way. You know, it's always good to have a little sheet music by your desk. You know, it's just, it's very humbling for me. So it's just great to know that you can always be learning.
What's the most, since you seem to have something of all sorts around your desk, what's the thing that when you're a little bit stuck on creativity gives you the most inspiration?
Oh, I would say it's music for sure.
Yeah.
But design, I love design. All forms of design. I mean, I'm surrounded, like, on my desk. Here's a little nifty thing.
What is that?
This is an orange peeler, believe it or not. So you'd stick your thumb.
I have a thing like that.
Over here. And then it has a sharp point. But what's interesting about it is it kind of looks like a musical note. It's very heavy for this little thing. But I love little, you know, some might call them tchotchkes, but to me, they're just fascinating little things. Like this is, whoops, I don't know if this is going to show up. Ah, there we go. Yeah. It's to hold business cards, but it's a little springy, twisty thing. I just love, like, who would have thought to do that?
Yeah.
Who would think to, you know, make, you know, a lip balm that's round?
Well, let's talk about that lip balm. Let's talk about some of these products that have.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the guitar down.
You can keep it going if you want to jam.
No, that's all right.
We can
hear that nonsense.
Part of the show. Let's talk about lip balm, right? Because you have a history here of going into some categories that I think some people would consider solved and finished.
Oh yeah, that's, by the way, that's like the greatest. Like that's, I don't want to say there's a trick, but for me, that gets me really going when people think something's done, like it's done. Like when a whole category is named after a brand, that gets me so excited. So people are like, it's chapstick. That whole category, it's chapstick. I'm like, no, chapstick is a brand. It's a wonderful brand. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
Susie Chapstick. You know, that's terrific. But to me, that's like a place to start.
Yeah.
And whenever people have told me no, like, you can't do that. It's chapstick. The whole category is, you know, owned, and you can't do it. That gets me really excited because usually the people that are telling me that are really smart.
Yeah.
Much smarter than I am.
Yeah.
And basically the smartest people just told me that they're not going to compete with me. They just said you can't do it. They're not going to do it. So I'm like, woo! I got free reign. Yeah. So like, here's an example on my messy desk. If you guys know Method. So first of all, I can't and shouldn't and never would take any credit for Method. The only thing I will say about Method, well, I have lots to say about Method, but is that my lucky day was when I met the founders when they were two guys mixing product in their bathroom. And nobody believed that this could be anything, which is why I'm sharing this story, because it's a tie-in to what you were saying. Like everyone said, no, this will never work. And it totally worked. It totally worked. And people told me that, because basically people said, oh, it's dish soap. Like no one cares about dish soap. It's already been done. There's Dawn and Soft Soap, or, there's a laundry list of terrific brands. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm tiptoeing around it. Those are they're amazing companies doing amazing things out there. But people just assume that it was done, right? That exists already. It's done. Imagine if someone told Elon Musk, I'm not comparing Method to Tesla, right? But I'm comparing certain things.
Mentality.
Exactly, like the mindset, right? So, cars, they exist. Why should there be another car? Electric cars, Henry Ford had electric cars years ago. He gave one to Thomas Edison. You can go to the Edison Museum and you could see the car that, there's an electric car that Henry Ford gave to Thomas Edison. Yeah. I mean, it's not a new idea, right?
Yeah.
So you could argue there are no new ideas, the same way I could argue there's 12 notes in the musical scale. And every song should, with the same sheet music, every player should be able to play the exact same thing, the exact same way. And I could argue that, Glenn Gould played the Goldberg variations the first time he recorded it with like a whole bunch of time that didn't, make it into the later version that he recorded. One was so much longer than the other, but it's the same music. So everything's fair game. So dish soap, Method kind of changed the game, because I feel like it brought design to the party for sure. But the deeper thing for me was there was this bigger cultural set of insights, which really revolved around a couple of things. Like one is women weren't sitting around the house deep cleaning every day, smoking cigarettes, and watching P&G sponsored daytime television, which is why those shows were called soap operas, because the production was paid for by a big soap company.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So like culturally we had shifted. Last I checked, women, oh my gosh, they have jobs that aren't homemaker as the title, right?
Yeah.
But back in the day, these brands were all created when women were supposed to get married and make babies and stay at home, and men were the breadwinners. And if you were lucky back in the day, you married an astronaut. That was like the height of celebrity. Like if you weren't Jackie O and you weren't like the first lady, marrying an astronaut was like really pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And the space race was going on, and that was a driving cultural force. So all the brands had X's in them because it sounded very high tech, like Ajax and Borax and Windex and Oxidol, and Comet kept the space race theme going, but didn't have an X. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Mr. Clean was this like breakthrough brand because there was a white t-shirt clinged, on this heaving dude with a earring and a shaved head. And that was the most like differentiated thing anyone had ever seen. And for American men at the time, they thought a bald guy with a clingy white t-shirt and earring was, like just a freak. And American women were like, that dude's hot.
Yeah.
Like, he could help me in more than just the kitchen. Like bring it on, Mr. Clean. So that became this big breakout brand. So this is what was going on. And there were these two guys, and they're like, we're going to call this thing, breaking up with my weird screen, we're going to call this thing Method, which was so different, and bringing natural ingredients to the party.
And what year is this?
Weren't any. Sorry?
What year is it that you met them?
I can tell you the exact date. So I led the original funding, and I said okay to wire the money from New York Cornell Hospital on November 15th of 2001, because my son was born that day. So my wife gives birth, and we delivered this healthy baby. We, not me, really her and the doctor. And everyone was okay. Baby was okay. My lovely bride was okay. And I went downstairs to the lobby and said, okay, wire the money. So I know the dates really well.
Wow.
So November 15th, 2001. Yes.
Was that your first significant investment?
in the CPG world for sure. And to be, really clear, I invested personally, but my job also was at the time, I had this really funky title. I was the SVP of venture development for Simon Property Group, which is the biggest owner of retail real estate in the world. So I was their in-house venture, private equity, non-core real estate strategy person. So so I led the investment, on behalf of the Simons, and I was on the board for the first 5 years. So I was a founding board member. And and I love the Simons, but even back in the day, they thought this was a little crazy. And they literally said, we know you, we love you, we trust you, and we know you don't want ill to befall us. They used some more colorful language than that. So okay, we'll do it. So again, I never want to take credit. I think credit should only be given and not taken. But my lucky thing was that I got to meet them literally when they were two guys mixing product in the bathroom. And I believe there was this much bigger opportunity when other people just sort of overlooked it. So, yeah.
Let's dive in there a little bit more, right? Because is it, were there not a dozen other soap companies trying to make a better looking bottle? How much does the product matter?
Product matters a lot.
Yeah.
It's funny. I love that you brought that up because I definitely want to touch on that. But at the time, very few people were investing in anything consumer related. Everything was tech.
Yeah.
Or biotech, but tech. And there was Method based in San Francisco, and I had been out there for a little while myself. And, a soap company, no, there weren't exits. There weren't huge multiples. The soap companies that were public companies, you all know already, they're these monster multinational companies. It just seemed like very improbable.
Yeah.
But I felt they had this unfair competitive advantage, and that they understood and appreciated that there were major cultural shifts, like I was alluding to before, that were occurring that big guys just weren't paying as much attention to. And they really also, at Method, really appreciated and understood the power of design.
Yeah.
And, Method, like this is a quote unquote natural product, right? But if you looked at it, you just saw this pretty shape. This was a piece of art you got to put on your sink top and interact with every day. And that was great. Maybe you just cared that it was this beautiful, like this one's cucumber, right? Back in the day, like cucumber as a fragrance, as an ingredient in a personal care product, that was just completely bonkers. So they understood the power of design. They understood fragrance and flavor and color in a way that other players really didn't at the time. Now it seems so commonplace, right? But back, almost 20 years ago, that was just crazy. And the other thing was design and an eye towards design typically meant you were in a very elite group, and or your product was going to be very expensive. Like, oh, that Ferrari is beautiful, but that's for like the 0.001%, So being able to actually make something that had an appreciation for aesthetics, and this notion that you could make aesthetically pleasing things affordable, obtainable by people, that's a much bigger idea.
Yeah.
So back then, no one was funding that kind of stuff.
Do you think, and by the way, for those who are late to the game here, feel free to jump into the chat, say hello, where you are in the world, maybe what company you're with or what you're looking for help for. And if you have questions, I see quite a few in the chat, add them to the Q&A so I can follow along a little bit more easily. So what percentage of the success breaking out in the consumer industry in general is, the odds are heavily stacked against you. And you talk about this as if you have a great way of saying it as if it's very logical and natural and beautiful design and it's good package. But, the last I read, Hello's in 45,000 stores, and I bet that article is dated. That's no easy feat.
No.
How does one really break out? And what percentage of success, if Method had been a different name in a different bottle with the same product, I'm curious if you think that would have worked. And what if the cucumber wasn't in it?
Yeah, well, there's a lot that goes into any business. It doesn't matter if it's personal care, beauty, tech, a restaurant. So much is this combination. I like to call it this combination of math and magic. And the math is the math is the math. Like if you have an idea for a widget and you make your widget for $1 and you can wholesale it for $2 and the person who bought it for you from 2 gets to sell it for 4, everybody wins. And, that's like the math, right? It's pretty basic. I'm making up those percentages, right?
Sure.
If you sell something for a penny and sell it for a penny and a half and someone sells it for a penny and 3/4, if people can make their little piece of the pie, that's terrific. And if you can scale that, that's great. That to me is the math. Like you could learn how to solve for the area under the curve at, a number of different universities. Once you know how to solve for the area under the curve, that's great.
Yeah.
But if you know what to do with that, that's a different story. So it's understanding really that it's like a left brain, right brain kind of thing. So you got to have the underlying financial fundamentals in place so that it's a real business, so it can actually operate like a real business and hopefully generate a profit for everybody. And then you have to get to the magic part, which is, does anybody give a shit about this thing? Yeah. Is it special? Is it different than what's out there? Does it appeal to me on an emotional level, not just on a utilitarian level? Because there are a lot of things in life that solve for very basic things, and that's terrific. Like you said earlier, there were other dish soaps, there were other lip balms, there are other cars. So you have to really solve.
I want to interrupt you there for a second, because if you have a product, maybe you spent a whole bunch of your money, maybe your life savings on developing a certain, limited batch of prototypes. Mm-hmm. Or actually, let me just skip that assumption. What would be the first step to see, can you build an emotional connection with this new product, and how would you go about doing it? Especially
That's a great question. That's a great question. So I personally think that as different as we all are, we're actually much more similar than we are different from one another. And I think we've all gone out of our way. We've been raised a certain way, and we've watched media a certain way. We've consumed things that tell us, being an individual is so important. And listen, I think people need to feel fulfilled, and we all should, and we are unique. But we share a lot in common. And I think if something bothers you enough that you were willing to spend all the money you have and mortgage your house or take on a third job, chances are that thing that's bugging you might bug somebody else. Because again, we're more alike than we are dissimilar. So I think part of it comes to figuring out what drives you, what gets you really excited, and is there a chance that that might really inspire some other people too? And you gotta do a little soul searching. You can't do the N of one, like, well, I like this, so everyone's gonna like it. I mean, that's dangerous. I do that all the time, and it's a little dangerous. But you gotta get a sense for what's missing in the marketplace. Is there a reason it's missing? Like maybe the world doesn't need a 5-wheeled sports car. Maybe 4 is just fine. So is there a place?
What exercises would you go through specifically? Like in tech, people often build a landing page and spend some money on social to drive people to that landing page to see if they can convert interest in some fashion.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'm a little bit crazy, so I don't do it that way. Normally what people do, it's such a great question. I think normally what people do is exactly what you're talking about. They build a prototype and they show a web page, or they'll do a Kickstarter, or they'll do something to try to get some feedback. And I am much less data driven than I am gut driven. And it's not because people will say, I'm imagining people say, well, that's because, you've done these things and you must have like a financial backstop and you can afford to do it. No, like I said earlier, I have no fear of failure. I have fear of not trying. And I think if I'm really passionate about it, there's probably a reason why. Like if I'm really losing sleep, there's probably a reason why I'm losing sleep.
So I'm a little worried that this is dangerous advice, and I want to get a little more.
Like I said, I'm a little crazy, so this isn't for everybody.
I think all entrepreneurs are a little crazy. I think all entrepreneurs, myself included, have had that feeling where this is it, and I just know it, and I feel it, and sure, maybe I'll look into some data, but I know it.
Big addressable market. Yeah, big addressable market.
Yeah.
Right. So, is there a real place in the world for this thing? Is your thing different than what's out there? Are you solving for anything? Because sometimes you fall in love with it, but you're not really solving for anything. It's just another thing. So you got to make sure that, like, something I've said a lot is that you have to fall in love with the problem. You can't fall in love with your idea that you think is the solution. You got to fall in love with the problem, because as soon as you think you've solved for the problem, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're in
I
trouble.
told you my mom's watching.
Sorry. God, yeah, I curse a little bit sometimes.
Okay. He doesn't mind.
Because as soon as you think you've solved it, like, you just open the door for a lot of other people who are passionate and have insight that you may not, and they're going to come and clean your clock.
Yeah.
So by falling in love with the problem, I'm always trying to think, how do I make it better? How do I make it better? How do I make it better? No matter what I've already launched or the team is launched, I say, I really want to talk about my team in a second. It's not my team, it's the team. How we do this stuff, and never rest ever. Because again, as soon as you think you're done, you are done, like the wrong sense of done. Someone else is going to do you in done. So it's not that the paranoid survive. I think it's that the passionate thrive.
Yeah.
And you got to stay really passionate about what the problems are, not how in love you are with your solution.
And I think that's a really critical part of the thinking. Like you're saying you go with your gut on, I think this is a really big problem, not this is definitely the solution.
Exactly. No, I never think I have the solution. I think I've identified the problem.
And it sounds like you
within the problem is the opportunity.
Yeah. Then you want to find out, is this actually a real problem? Right.
Exactly.
So is it safe to say that minus, maybe you won't do a landing page, but you'll certainly look up an addressable market size? I'm sure. Like, let's talk about the hello experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We've got a lot of questions here. And as a reminder, those of you I see popping questions into the chat, try to put them in the Q&A because I'll get back to them. But, I reading about this story, it seems like you recognize that culturally the brands on the shelves weren't matching the market. Is that safe?
I think what they weren't matching for me was the kind of emotional territory I would have preferred to see in the world.
Yeah.
Because I think generally, so here's the quick story on Hello. The quick story on Hello is I was walking through a drugstore, a mass market drugstore on 6th Avenue in New York City. And I'm hyper visual. Like I'm just always looking at things. And, doesn't matter what their shape is or color. I'm just always observing because I'm fascinated by stuff. I just love design. I love, everything. I mean, buildings, curbs. I mean, who looks at curbs? I look at electrical outlets. I think they're fascinating. Like I'm captivated by form and fit and function and color and design of all sorts. Yes. So I'm walking through the store and I'm stopped dead in my tracks in front of the oral care set because for some reason, what stopped me was I saw pictures of extracted teeth on all these products. And there was a new Sensodyne product, and it had a foil sort of like 3D image on the front of the pack of like this dimensionalized extracted tooth. It was like this little hologram. It was very cool, but it was of an extracted tooth. And I literally thought, I'm going to curse, so I'll prep anybody. Like, you can bleep me out or something. But I was like, that's the most fucked up thing I've ever seen. Like, isn't the last thing I want to see an extracted tooth? Like, aren't they trying to tell me that this stuff is so good if I use it, that's what I'm not going to see?
Yeah.
I'm not going to see an extracted tooth. So all of a sudden I start looking at all these other packages in oral care and there are extracted teeth everywhere. And I'm like, that's really crazy. And then I started looking at the ingredients. And this is all in real time. This wasn't like I'm telling you the story that was months. This was like in 30 seconds, like at the shelf. And I thought, wow, look at this product. What is this ingredient? And I looked and I'm like, wait, saccharin, didn't diet sodas vanquish that like 30 years ago? Like, why is that in kids' toothpaste and adult toothpaste? And it goes in your mouth and it's going in your body. And then I saw this other ingredient and it was like a star ingredient, like on a monograph on the side of this tube was this big like active ingredient. And I was like, ooh, what's that? So I Google it and I'm like, whoa, like that ingredient had been banned at one point by the FDA from hand soap. You couldn't wash your hands with it. But it was going in your mouth and your kid's mouth. And I was like, that's really totally like, that's wacky. Yeah. And then I just sort of took this like macro emotional giant step back. And I thought, everything in this whole category is just like, it's all driven by fear and shame. Everything in it is just to scare the shit out of you. And if you're not whitening, you're frightening. And if you don't use this stuff, you're going to get drilled, filled, and billed, and the dentist is going to hurt you. And, I love to rhyme whenever possible. So, you're not going to get paid and you're not going to get laid. Like, you're not going to get the job interview going great because you're reeky and freaky, and you're not going to get kissed at the end of the date, right? So everything in the category is just meant to scare you. And yet they're showing you this stuff with extracted teeth on it, like, which are really scary to me. I know I don't want to see those things.
Yeah.
So I thought, God, this is the most unfriendly category I've ever seen. And you can't disintermediate it. There's no like, well, I'm really nervous about COVID. And by the way, we all should be a little nervous, and I'm sure we'll touch on the horrors of the day. And I certainly don't mean to make light of any of those things. But, the world is scary enough, and I don't need scare tactics in this stuff that I have to use every day. So even with COVID, I'm brushing my teeth every day, right? I hope we all are. Like, you have to. Oral health and whole body health are inextricably linked. So I thought, all right, here's this huge addressable market, this daily use category that you can't disintermediate, and you shouldn't in terms of being a user of these products, right? You shouldn't not brush your teeth. And the stuff I'm using is scary on every level. So I thought, it's really unfriendly. What's the friendliest word I could think of? And it was hello. And I trademarked the word hello all over the world. And people are like, you can't do that. I'm like, I did. Of course I can. I don't have it in every single category in the world. I'll show you a funny picture, actually, because I have stuff all over my desk. I'll show you something funny. This guy is an amazing and beautiful and very special guy. But, I don't know if you can see him.
Oh, yeah.
It's me and Lionel Richie. I don't know if it's coming through.
That's pretty cool. How'd that happen?
That's a whole nother crazy story, which I'm happy to share. He's the nicest, sweetest guy ever. And his music was not my music growing up. It's not that I wasn't aware of it. I mean, he's a legend. But, it wasn't like, oh, Lionel Richie's my favorite. He actually, now he is my favorite. But I got pinged over Skype by his significant other. And we started talking, and he's the greatest guy ever. But, he has hello in all of his categories, and now he's got a fragrance, which is terrific. He's a great guy.
Did you get pinged in a way that they were trying to, was this a
they wanted to talk. They wanted to talk.
They were not that happy with you at the start, I'm guessing.
No, they were blown away, actually.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah, he's a lovely, lovely guy. I can't say enough nice things, honestly, about Lionel Richie. He is such a special guy. I've been very fortunate. I've met some really interesting people in my life.
That's very cool.
He is a super, super guy. Like, as nice as he appears, he's like even nicer.
How did you go, though? I think there are so many steps between that inspiration and getting this product created. Yeah. And so, what was the very first thing you did to see, might this work?
Well, the first thing I did was, I had this epiphany moment in the store. And then I had this idea around what it could be called and why it would be really different. And the next thing was, I wanted to make, and we touched on this a little bit, and I'm excited you brought this up. I wanted to make a product that was better. And I think a word that doesn't get used a lot, and it's a bold word, is better. So I also, I've done some investing. I'm involved with some funds. I see lots of plans, and I try to avail myself to entrepreneurs all the time. I work with a lot of students, non-student entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurs, and I try to keep pushing on people that your thing has to be better. Like, I've seen, I don't want to say anything unfriendly about anybody else's brand, because that would not be nice or constructive or certainly on brand. But I've seen lots of things. I'm like, I don't think that thing is better.
Yeah.
Like, how many companies have foam in a box delivered to your house that you could sleep on now?
Yeah.
Like, are they really better? Like, they're solving for maybe going to the store, but now it's ironic that some of those products are available in stores.
Yeah.
But it's foam in a box. Like, how many of those are really, 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 really better?
And what makes it appealing to you, right? It seems like there's this mix of the actual product has to be significantly better.
Yeah, it's got to be better.
Significant focus on design and emotion.
Right. So it has to be better, and better I think you can define better a lot of ways. It could be, like, to me, people talk about innovation a lot, and that's a great term and word and territory. But to me, if it's not culturally and emotionally and economically relevant, and let's define economically relevant for a second, because emotional, I think people get pretty quickly, and environmentally relevant, right? People get that. You know, if it's not viable to do your thing as a business, like if you can't run as a business and be economically relevant to yourself or your stakeholders, investors, employees, who I hope if you have employees, you don't call them employees, and they should all have equity in your company. Oh man, they're like family, like at Hello, like, and that, by the way, is the most important thing. It's the people. It's always the people.
Yeah.
If you have a good idea and you don't have the right people, you're a person with an idea, big deal. It's all about the people. So I can't stress that enough. But if your economic relevance isn't there, like there's a real business here and I could support my people, and there's economic relevance in terms of I can actually create this product feasibly and get it to partners who can then sell it and also have economic relevance for them and make it economically relevant for the actual purchaser. Like there's value in this to me.
Yeah.
And I think if you can apply value and values together and you start merging these things, like to me, you know, really truly innovation and good design is about merging all these things together. So you can have value and values, ethics and aesthetics. Like you start putting all these things together, all that is the magic. The math is the math, right? I can make it, I have margin, I can sell it, the people that are buying from me make margin, and people at the end, it's a better product for them. So they get like this emotional margin, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully it's economically viable for them to afford your product. And that to me, with Hello, that was the big idea. It was to make a beautiful product, like visually, you know, I mean, I think these things look really cool. But to make something that's better, oh, look at you with your Hello toothbrush. Thank you.
Know, that you gave. And it's
but if it's not better, yeah, it's got to be better. So I'm going to show you better. I'm going to open this one up because I depleted the big one that I just held up. This is a little one. I hope this will show up on the screen, but never, maybe not. If it won't show up, should I turn off my screen thing so you can see my messy background?
Sure.
You guys don't care about my skateboard or guitar.
So
this is fluoride-free toothpaste. Fluoride is fine, but I love our fluoride-free products. I can tell you why a little later, but this is what you can do. Don't ever do this. So I just cracked this one open. Oh, I kind of ate this whole tube. So
eat the whole tube. Yes, you did.
Yeah, I can eat it.
Yeah.
And next to every ingredient, I don't know if this is going to show up, but
I don't think so.
Next to every ingredient, it tells you what it does. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
So, woohoo, I just took a lot down. It was good. So, you know, we have these like custom tubes and they don't get crinkly. I like to say we're saving marriages. So I can keep squeezing it and it's just going to come back and look good.
Yeah.
It feels great in your hand. I'm obsessed with haptic response. What do things feel like?
Yeah.
And it's made in America. It's vegan. It's cruelty-free. Even our boxes, like here's one in a box. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. The boxes are FSC certified paper, so we don't kill more trees. And they're printed with soy-based inks. We make these in America too. Our mint, we grow it in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. We have 4th generation women-owned farms that are growing the product. The thing I'm so excited about, there's a lot of stuff I'm excited about with respect to Hello, but one of the things I'm really excited about is Hello is majority women.
Yeah.
Like, so my CEO is a woman, my head of R&D is a woman, our head of sales is a woman, our head of marketing is a woman. I'm leaving a lot of people out, I don't mean to, but
why and how is that?
Because we're a modern company. And for me, I have a son and I have a daughter, and I'm the luckiest guy, you know, ever, really, truly. I never, ever, ever forget how lucky I am. And I shudder at the fact that my son might be more advantaged than my daughter because he's a he, because he could pee standing up neater. Like what, like you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So, we're a modern company, and the values that we have, I think, are representative of exactly what's important right now,
Yeah.
whether it's how we source ingredients, to how the company is run, to who's running it and who's there. And with Hello, I like to say, like, no one works at Hello, they join Hello. It's a really big difference. It's subtle, but it's really, really, really big. And I think that changes everything. And I think my job is to magnetize the place so the coolest, smartest people can do their best work ever. And so it never feels like work.
Yeah.
Like, I just ask people, I'm like, what do you love? And if it's what you love, then you're not working at it, you're loving it. And you'll end up working really, really hard because it doesn't feel like work. You're doing what you love.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out what people love and see how that marries to what the business itself needs. And when you get that fit just right, that's magic. That's how it happens. So it's all about the people. So even if you have the greatest idea and you're really passionate, you got to get other people to be just as passionate as you are. Because if you can't, you're like pushing water uphill all day long.
Yeah.
That's a tall.
How has COVID affected Hello and the supply chain and your ability to actually deliver?
We've been really, again, I say how lucky I am. The team at Hello is amazing. Like, they're incredible. So we've been very fortunate, knock on wood. We haven't missed any orders or not shipped. And we built this thing to really grow. So I was very comfortable. We as an entity, as a company, were very comfortable, being mindful that we're in this explosive growth mode. Like, we built this thing to go the distance. So we were happy, like maybe front loading a little bit, like basically being prepared with inventory in advance, not knowing anything about COVID. I mean, who could have ever predicted that? The only thing we did in terms of like material changes, we closed down our own e-commerce site because we were fulfilling that ourselves. So the site is up, but we're just not shipping ourselves. You have
a third-party logistics operator on that now?
No, our e-commerce, we shut down our proprietary e-commerce altogether.
Got it.
So you can go to the website, you can see things, but it'll probably just direct you to Amazon. I mean, we're on Amazon, we're on Thrive, we're on, there are a lot of places you can get us on Target.com, Walmart.com.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great places to get Hello online. But our own e-commerce fulfillment, we shut that down and we closed our office, and we've been working just like this, on Zoom, and I mean, pick your platform, right? Whether it's FaceTime, Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp, Microsoft Meeting, Google Hangout, Google Meet, we're using them all. I don't think we're using a house party yet, but
But it's all working. The business is moving forward. In selling, you obviously you have a lot of very strong views on the culture of the business.
Oh, it's everything. Yeah.
Right. And then you sell to a Colgate Palmolive. And I'm curious how you were able to make sure and maintain. I'm assuming that maintaining that culture was a big part of your prerequisites in discussing the potential here. How have you been able to maintain that?
Yeah, it's another great question. Well, first of all, I know I said this a few times. We're incredibly fortunate. And I wouldn't say we sold to Colgate as much as we were acquired by Colgate and we joined Colgate. Yes, there was a transaction, right? Yes. But it was really, we were very fortunate. And I know I've used that word a few times, but I really feel that way. We had multiple suitors because Hello had become the fastest growing oral care brand in America, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we had the #1 natural toothpaste, #1 natural mouthwash at Walmart and at Target, the #1 oral care product at Dollar General. And we had literally jumped from 19 to 45,000 doors of distribution in a relatively short amount of time, with sales it's one thing to open doors, but it's another thing to actually perform in those doors. So it wasn't just like, let's sell.
But how did you get in? I mean, getting into those retailers is no small feat. How did you get?
It was a huge feat, and I'm not proud of my my United 1K status, right? Like, you know how you do it? You fucking hustle, man. You go. And I have a great head of sales, and we have a great sales team now. But for the longest time, the sales team, in the very beginning, I was a sales team.
Yep.
And then it was me and my head of sales, and Kim. I don't know if you're watching, but hi, Kim. She's the greatest. And now we have a whole sales team, and they're amazing. And again, it's all people. So the people are everything, but you have to have the performance. And when you go in and you're like, hey, guess what? Here's how we're doing. And here's how we're building brand. Here's how we're building share. And here's why our brand is relevant. It's resonating with people. And that's why it's working. It becomes this virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
So more and more people were joining the brand. We were getting more awareness for the brand. We're opening more doors, which was also helping generate more awareness. More awareness on social was certainly helping. Now we have TV commercials that are playing. That's certainly going to start helping build even more awareness. So it starts to build on itself and snowball. And all the major retailers and players of note, they have data. And they could all see this data. So we were very fortunate. I'm going to get to your exact question. And we were approached by a lot of people. And the thing that was so amazing about Colgate, I mean, there are a couple of things. One, they're the largest oral care company in the world. They operate out of 200 countries. They have over 35,000 people. It's an amazing company. They're very humble and they're very quiet.
But I've got to point out, though, they were among a lot of the boxes on the shelves when you were first inspired.
They absolutely were. They absolutely were. And one of the things that's been so amazing about this relationship with them is that they said, we don't want to touch we don't want to change anything about Hello. Your offices are in Montclair, they're in Montclair. Your HR policies, those are your HR policies. I mean, we have things like if you foster a pet, we have funds set aside for you if you're a foster. If you adopt a pet, we have funds set aside for you to adopt your pet. Yeah. If you ride your bike, we have a tune-up program for your bike. If you want to exercise, we have a program to get you new athletic shoes. If you're a walker or a runner, we have all these things. They were like, that's not our HR policy. Wait, you bring dogs to work? We can't do that. Like everything that we had, they're like, don't change anything.
Yeah.
We want to learn from you. And anything that we have as Colgate that would be helpful to grow your brand and your business, we're here to help you with that. It's been beautiful. So nothing has changed. We just have so much more in terms of resource. It's incredible. And for me, it's like, it's a dream come true. And again, I stress, it wasn't that like we sold out. Like people were like, oh, you were this cool independent company. Now you sold out. I'm like, no, now we get to actually deliver our purpose. Like this thing was built literally, you know what the idea is? Like people say like, what's the big idea? The big idea was to make a product that was as natural as we could make it, as beautiful as we could make it and effective, and to make it so everyone could get it. So the big idea, I like to say that Hello is for the 100%, not for the 1%. That's the big idea, to make something this natural, I could eat it. And that's vegan and cruelty-free and has all these other thoughtful elements to it and make it affordable. Like the day we launched in all doors of Walmart and the day we launched in all doors of Dollar General, those are two of my happiest days ever. And I love Whole Foods. We're in Whole Foods. I love Whole Foods. But
you want to cater to the masses. You want to bring
better stuff for everybody.
Yeah.
So to be a truly egalitarian brand, if we're really going to marry values and value, and like I said, ethics and aesthetics, those are like big ideals. And I want to be powered by ideals. And I want people to join what we're doing, not just transact and just buy it. Anybody could put goop in a tube. It's got to be better. So by the way, if you care about whitening and stain removal, and it's okay if you do, because there's nothing wrong with that, our charcoal toothpaste removes stains better than two of the leading global brands of super high-powered clinical whitening toothpaste with peroxide in them. I won't even name them, but they're two big brands. You know them. I might know one even better than the other.
Yeah. And
our stuff is vegan, cruelty-free, made in America, all that good stuff. And I could eat the fluoride-free version of it. Not that anyone should eat toothpaste. Got to say that. And ours is less expensive, and it removes stains better and is a fraction as abrasive. Like It's better. And the tube feels better, and it looks prettier, and it's funkier, and it's got cool directions, and you know all these little subtle touch points have been addressed. And I think that's the point, like make it better. So Colgate has said, you guys are killing it, like keep doing what you're doing. And that was such a beautiful thing. And they're not messing with it. They're just highlighting. It's like, let's highlight the positive, and if there's anything that isn't working that we can help with, you got it.
All right. Had you raised any outside capital?
I did. In the very beginning, it was just me.
Yeah.
That was very scary. So for all of you who are bootstrapping, I'm with you and I get it.
Yeah.
I remember when I trademarked Hello, which is one of the first things I did. The first thing I did was I brought on board our formulator, our head of R&D. So we were developing all the formulations because I wanted to own all the IP. I didn't want to just go to someone and say, just make me some toothpaste. I trademarked Hello. It's going to be really great. It's called Hello. It's like, it has to be better and I have to own it.
Where did you find her?
So I got introduced to her years earlier and just kept in touch. She had been a formulator actually at a big beverage company. And she got 7 cavities working at the big beverage company because the stuff was so sugary and kind of nasty. And she started work on, she's got more degrees in a thermometer, and she's, a food scientist and a chemist, and, she's amazing. And she's an extreme sports person, she's like an ultra marathoner, and she's unbelievable. So I had met her along the way, and I'm like, she's the one. So she started working on the formulations, and I started all the legal stuff and all the trademarking stuff and brand and positioning stuff just on my own. It was just me.
Yeah.
And I'd get these bills from the Trademark Council. And, I've been married for a long time. My wife is like unbelievable on so many levels, not just because she puts up with me, but she's amazing. And we certainly don't have any secrets. And I get this bill from the Trademark Council, and she would look at it and she'd hold it and she'd be like, oh my God, this is really heavy. And she'd look at the postage mark and she'd be like, oh my God, this costs like $4.83 to send this bill. Like, this is going to be bad. And I'm like, honey, let's open her up. So we'd rip it open and her jaw would just drop. She'd be like, oh my God, oh my God.
Did you go for international protection right away?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a way to do it. So you can't just blanket. You have to kind of show that you have like a base here, and then you start going into territories.
Yeah.
And you have to show usage and intent to use and do all sorts of things. So we got this bill, and it was steep. And I said, honey, it's okay. We now own the word. Like, I didn't have the
You
logo.
thought this was going to be cool regardless of the band.
Oh, my God. So I had like the word mark. Forget about the identity, right? With this funky E and all that. I had the word mark. Could be capital, lowercase, italics, bold, serif, doesn't matter. I had in all these categories, all of them. And I was like, honey, now we own the word hello in Southeast Asia. And she was like, that's like one kid's college education. Like, are you kidding me? And I said, look, my wife's a PhD in clinical psychology, and I totally married up on many levels. And she's amazing. And I said, honey, like, there are no surprises here. Like, you know more about me than I'll ever know about me. And you know what you married. And like, it's going to be okay. And my joke was literally, I said, one day we'll sign the back of a check, but for a long time, it's going to be signing the front of the check. And, part of the trick was, and I owe this all to her, like, we lived well beneath our means for a long time. And the idea was like, look, I'm going to take these risks on business things, but I can't afford to take risks when it comes to family and, housing and food. So we lived very modestly, and I don't want to overplay that. We're still very comfortable and very fortunate, but, saved up and made choices on where to spend and where not to spend, and was able to take some risks. So I was the only investor in the beginning for a while. And then I got to a place where I was like, oh my God, I have to write, 7-figure
big checks.
Many checks.
Yeah.
And I knew that the size of this opportunity was so big. And this goes back to what you were sort of touching on earlier. It wasn't going to be like, well, let's just put up a website and see if anybody likes it. Or let's make 1 or 2 and see if we could sell it. Because this is a daily use, $40 billion global category, effectively owned by 3 brands. The only way to be taken seriously was to kind of go for it. So I decided really to build it out as if we were going to be a triple-digit million-dollar brand from day one. And what do we need to do that?
Yeah.
And I know that that is not easy to do. I don't want that to come across as like a flip statement, like, yeah, just start out and think you're a unicorn and raise all this money. Like, no. I had made sizable investments on my own. And I also had the good fortune to have had experiences with things like Method and EOS and other, Popcorn Indiana, a whole bunch of other brands that ultimately, had done pretty well. So I had learned a lot. It's not that I had, I don't want to say I had a track record. Other people would say that. That's for other people to say. I felt like I learned a lot, and that I could also bring into the orbit of this idea some really incredibly talented, sophisticated people who were going to help take a good idea and make it real.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the difference between, a good entrepreneur and maybe not a good entrepreneur, or like everyone has an idea, but you're really an innovator if you can take that idea and make it real. And to do that, it takes a lot of people, and you have to be really humble and really grateful and appreciative of other people and what they bring, and you got to let them shine.
Yeah.
And, I'm here and I'm lucky enough to be the one on the screen, but without the people that I was able to bring into this thing, I'd be a guy who saw extracted teeth, on tubes. So,
yeah. And I think, as you know about the Propellify Innovation Festival, the reason it's called Propellify is because I'm a big believer in that same concept, that the ideas are easy. You have to propel them into reality. And that means building the team and weathering the storm, and all the cliche metaphors that go with it, I think are absolutely.
And you know why they're cliche? They're cliche because they're said so often that they become cliche, but that's I hate that word. They're cliched, air quotes around that word, because they're common, and they're common because they're unifying.
That's right.
These are real things that affect many people.
Yeah.
So I love that you have the festival. I love that we're doing this. I'm really happy to share as much as I can with people, because all these things, like, I'm very fortunate, but I'm very fortunate because I was fortunate to meet lots of other people who were fortunate, and we all help each other.
That's right.
And you learn a lot. And I find that the people, because I also invest, I do my best to try to keep my hands in some things. And when I meet people that tell me about their idea and they tell me right away about the exit, and I'm like, I'm out. And they're like, but there's this addressable market, and we have this plan, and we have this path to profitability, and then we're going to get acquired. And I'm like, no, because if you're building it because you think it's going to get acquired, that's not good enough. Like, first of all, you and 50 other people probably think the same thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it a bad idea. But for me, it's like, you have to be prepared that it's going to suck. It's going to be hard. You're going to fail. Walls that you never imagined are going to be put up in front of you, like a giant virus affecting the whole friggin' planet. And you got to be so in love with the problem. Again, not the idea that you're going to have an exit, but the problem, that you're never going to stop making your thing better and the best thing for as many people as possible. And then you're going to win. You're not going to win if it's all about, oh, I see this white space where the competition is going to see the need, but it's going to be too late, and I'm going to solve for it, and they're going to come and buy me.
Yeah.
Like, no way. Because it's not that easy. You got to have an idea, and it has to be sustainable and meaningful.
Weather the storm.
That's it, man. Because you don't know. I mean, if you build it because you think you're getting acquired, like, there are no bets on that. Like, you just.
Well, I have a list of lots more questions, and even more since we've been talking. But I want to be respectful of your time and everyone watching. A few people.
If anyone has questions and we don't cover them here.
Well, a couple people pinged me and said, "Could we do a round two? If you're down to do a round two of this, I'd love to do that."
Yeah, I'm here, man. I'm good. So the other thing I'll share is that there's a Skype button on our website, and it's real on the Hello website, and I've had that since the very first day. It's been the coolest thing, because I hear from incredible people from all over the world. It's the greatest.
Yeah. So
there's a Skype button. You can ping me. I give everybody my email and phone number, and people can text or call or email or write or whatever. So if anybody wants to do that,
I don't want to get you inundated, but you actually do respond, right? Because I find a lot of people.
I totally respond. Yeah. No, I always respond. I'm just flattered that anybody wants to talk or share anything, and I feel, again, like, incredibly grateful. So
and what I mean by that is not a lot of Craig's don't follow up. A lot of attendees don't follow up with the speaker.
Oh man, that's like your biggest mistake. Like, I've had so many cool things happen to me because of LinkedIn or sitting next to somebody at a conference. Like, if you don't follow up, like, that's just, someone asked me about jobs. They were job seeking, and I told them, I said, I've made every job I've ever had, and I've worked inside some big companies. I've never once applied for a job, ever. And by the way, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean, I have an idea and I'm quitting my job and I'm mortgaging my house for the third time and I'm going to work in the garage. And, that's all. If that's your thing, or that's the way it works out or needs to work out, that's cool. But to me, being an entrepreneur is having an idea and making it real. And if you can make your thing real inside of a big company and do it for your big company, that's beautiful. That's great. Like, the dirty little secret is every small company wants to be a big company. And every big company wishes they could be as nimble and cool and clever as a small company.
That's
So
right.
if you're inside a big company, you have an idea, friggin' make it real inside your big company. That's awesome. And then if you do something later and you do it on your own, you'll still have learned so much, and your credibility will be so much greater when you do decide, like, oh shit, I need to raise money. You could say, inside of my big company, I created this thing and it did this. And here's my next idea, and it's going to be this. And people will believe you because you will have done it. So yeah, it's the doing.
Well, I would love to do a round two, get a little bit more into, there were some questions about your design tactics, design thinking or not.
Sure.
Talk more about building company culture. I think there's a lot more to focus on. If you're willing to come back and join us again, I'd love to do it.
I'm ready. You say the word and I'm happy to do it. And like I said, Skype, you can Skype with me. My email is craig@hello-products.com. You need a little dash between hello and products. So craig@hello-products.com. My cell phone is 917-392-1000. People are always like, I can't believe you give that out. I'm like, people I find are very respectful and very nice and very understanding. And if it takes a little while to get back sometimes because you're doing something with your kids or, we're all human, right? So
that's right.
I think.
I got to say that I've only met Craig in person one time, and he really is enormously generous.
I'm lucky.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Showed up to the party with a bunch of product to give out to a bunch of strangers. You've been generous with your time with us, now here with this community, and we really do appreciate that. It's you're not hardcore in the tech land of the New Jersey Tech Council, right? But I think you completely embody the kinds of people and thinkers and leaders that we want to be representative, that we want to draw more connectivity around. The businesses all vary, but I think it's really about leadership and vision that make these things shine. And I really appreciate yours.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And sharing is kind of it's the big deal. Like, it's a gift if you have the ability to share something. And by the way, for me, it's huge learning. Like, I feel guilty because I'm talking so much, but I have learned so much from so many people, and I just keep asking good questions and sharing with people and sharing respectfully and thoughtfully. And, what can't we do? What can't we do? We're so lucky. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, stay positive.
We, all of us at the council, really appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone joining us today. We've had most people actually stuck around here till the end, even though I'm about almost a half an hour longer than I promised them I would be. You included.
Oh no, sorry.
No, it's good. We had good stuff, so we let it fly. If you're not a member of the council, we operate things like this all year long. We have one tomorrow with Dave Meltzer. We'll have Tim Draper on a week from Monday. We've got Al Roker coming on in May, talk about his entrepreneurial efforts. So if you're not a member of the council, go to the website, fill out the form, and we'll get in touch with you about becoming a member. We'll probably follow up with you from this webinar as well. We run all sorts of programs, big and small, throughout the year around driving opportunity, empowering innovators and entrepreneurs. And so, Craig, I really appreciate your wisdom today, all your time spent with us today, and hopefully we'll do a round two real soon.
Oh, you're very kind. Well, thank you for having me. Everyone stay safe, stay positive, and brush happy. And if you're wondering what to brush with,
hello is it.
Just make it happen. All right. Thank you. Everyone stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.